Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's start off with a review, as I was supposed to do earlier this week. But, times change and I don't go anywhere, so I have no excuse. So, tonight was Friday nights. We had nights ago Friday Night Smackdown, of course. Oh my god. Just, they're not gonna end, they're not gonna stop until mediocrity just until like Fox is like, get the hell out of here. You're making depleting numbers and you're making our brand feel worse. Other than you cater to a small minority of children that still depletingly watch your show with very little view counts and very little Google searches. Like, who wants that? I think the XFL had more Google searches than the freaking WWE Friday Night SmackDown airing. And that's sad to say. We have Forgotten Sons with Kofi and Biggie Langston, with The Miz and Morrison giving in a pretty valid claim that we have had the most BS consequences over title defenses going over their Elimination Chamber title defense on their first title defense. They have, of course, I think their only normal tag team match was, of course, in Super Showdown against the New Day that they won it from. Then they had a triple threat match, two triple threat matches, and the last one was the previous week that The Miz got pinned against Biggie Langston off a finger four leg lock. It somehow got picked up for a big ending. That was dumb. Well, that was a dumb finish, and I thought the New Day shouldn't have won. But it was basic enough for at least them to still be pushed to our throat. I like the New Day, but I think they overstayed their welcome like 2016 when it was like, okay, these guys broke the tag team title record. There's nothing else for this team to promote, other than get these singular guys over at all. We know that Xavier Woods is a nerd, Biggie Langston is a charismatic, a bit flamboyant, exciting, a big freak show, and we got Kofi Kingston that self-explained, a mid-card purgatory, that his tag title reigns overshadow his 7-second title loss against Brock Lesnar back in October, but we don't have to talk about that. You know why? Because there's happier stuff in the world, and it's obviously not at this moment. And we, of course, went over the information from Rob Gronkowski returning to the NFL over a little teammate Tom Brady. Sorry, Julian Edelman. He's going over to Tampa while Gronkowski's going with him, while he's still 24/7 champion. And they've also brought that up earlier in the night over Rob Gronkowski. He's still being 24/7 champion, that we don't even know how long he's going to hold it over the circumstances that I don't think any wrestler can go to where Rob Gronkowski's going without wearing a goddamn mask. And as soon as they cut them off, the most enjoyable part of the segment was immediately Lince Dorado translating for Grand Metalik after he was spewing out Spanish. So why wasn't Lince Dorado doing more of the talking, other than for a quick pee of him saying, "Well, he say he said you're a bit," and then they cut off to the Forgotten Sons coming into the ring, interjecting and calling themselves well deserved for a title opportunity for this long, so they won't be forgotten in the tag. It's so corny, and it's at least a desperation, because it's only been the last several months that it's been the New Day, the Usos, or Miz and Morrison with the Lucha House Party here and there with Heavy Machinery. They don't have much of an in-depth tag division that shows that they have character. And even if they did, they should have broke up years ago, like the New Day, that's been part of the tag division since 2014. They have 8 tag title reigns. One of them at least lasted for at least over 2 years. You have one WWE champion, and once he never even felt like it was a singles run. It just felt like the New Day was just there, and they never involved a storyline with him, and I think that was leaving me confused. Like, they weren't going to do anything involving the New Day, two guys that's also there to be the top dogs in the company. Especially Big Langston. He was Intercontinental Champion back in 2013, I think, or 2014. You expect a bit more from these guys to at least feel like there should be more conflict into being WWE Champion or something. It ended up in a match involving Miz and Morrison against the Lucha House Party, just because Grand Metalik called him a bitch in Spanish. Ended up in a roll-up victory over a bit of parkouriness from Morrison, some basic strikes from Miz. It felt like they were just trying flying clothesline. It just felt like they were like on cruise control this entire match. And it like a lack of what SmackDown has is at least consistent to let alone intriguing storytelling. Because the only thing that gets at least some fans exciting for Friday Night SmackDown is at least if Otis is about to get Mandy Rose. Now he has Mandy Rose, and now they're gonna milk this out for what it's worth because people still think that Dolph Ziggler deserves to be a freaking main eventer, or at least deserves TV time because he was an amazing athlete. For some apparent reason. And they still dragged this out for over this time. We even had a vignette later in the day. And then the Jeff Hardy thing to probably issue a feud with him with Sheamus. Drew Gulak against Baron Corbin. The match was going basic as it was until Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro literally came and sneak attacked Daniel Bryan from behind. I thought it was okay. There was I think there was a half Nelson single leg, half Nelson exploder suplex. Gulak came around doing, I think, some kind of tarantula. This, I don't know what you can get put over from if nobody's there in the crowd to get you over, so it's just you wrestling. So that's why I feel like this BS should be canceled, and a lot of wrestling fans agree. Like they should cancel Smack, but they're bleeding money from the football league, and I guess they need something to carry on from the live events and the crap numbers they're getting on the network. And they continue to carry on that he's a Golden Glove, like any kind of statistical thing to at least show that Baron Corbin's a well-deserved guy that deserves screen time. Comes around shouting, "This is where the big boys are." He's doing that same running out the ring so he can get into a lariat, and it's so easy. It's almost like the rebound lariat that Dean Ambrose does back in the day. I mean, he rarely does it now as John Moxley, but back then it was super repetitive. Like, you wouldn't go a match without seeing that rebound lariat, and I hated it so much because, like, it came from being, oh, what a surprise move, into being just a basic part of his arsenal. It's so crap. So, the match ended with Corbin winning off the end of days, and thanks to Nakamura and Cesaro coming in to stop Daniel Bryan and beating the crap out of him afterwards. So Baron Corbin enters the Money in the Bank. This was also a qualifying match if you did not watch the show. Then we of course had Sheamus versus Daniel Vento. It's the same Negro. The Lashley squashed him the next week on Raw, and then we see this dude just Denzel done join it, so they couldn't even get the name right. Sheamus beat him in what could have been just after this Jeff Hardy vignette. It's like some people overshadowing the Celtic Warrior and just him scaring Corey Graves until he got, I think, strucken by him. No one cared. It was just a basic squash match. Every time, I understand they don't have most of their roster that because they're irrelevant anyway. Vince will just release them off the bat, but you're just doing that to just think that they have the most talented roster. I feel like it's overrated whenever people say they have the most talented roster. I feel like the most talented people, you remember their names. So if anybody can bring up the rosters from 2015, 14, 16, 17, and go over from what you remember from like frickin' 2005 to 2008 or 9, you can't just say that they're the most talented roster because they can do a 450 splash and still nobody reacts because they do that every frickin' night. I'm just saying, man. No disrespect. I feel like these are some talented individuals, but they have no conveyance of telling a story. And if they have the equivalent to drawing numbers like Ring of Honor in their most greatest years ever, they would be dying to get a 1.9 where like WWE used to have at least a higher expectation. We had Lacey Evans against Sasha Banks. Where the most gravitas thing is Lacey Evans, like people, like Sasha Banks focusing on the hand so she doesn't attempt the women's right, striking it, Enziguri, she holds on to the wrist, and then Tamina gets a surprise super kick later on Bayley, no one cared. It ended off a surprise women's right anyway after, like, I think a bank statement didn't work. And a fail by Bayley, I think attempting to hit her with some Vans, like a Vans is gonna knock out somebody. I feel like this feud is played out, and plus most of these women are going to be in the Money in the Bank match anyway, so it makes no sense. Other than to just conflict like we know Tamina's gonna lose. The point of doing this is to make sure like there's some aspect into challenge, some aspect of a threat of Bayley losing her title, even though this is like a filler match, and yet this is against a big fat wrestler. Even though years ago Tamina was less than fat, she was like I think a love interest for Santina Morella back then. I remember that clearly because I think she was managing the Usos the time when they were feuding. And that was when I was actually interested to watching Superstars because I actually liked seeing the mid-carders in action. We have also had Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross face off against Carmella and Dana Brooke in another terrible segment involving them. They're like, oh, we gotta win the tag titles. Yes, bitch. We have to win him. We have to. Oh, I see. Oh, bitch. You went qualified for the Money in the Bank ladder match while we have a tag title match tonight? Well, yeah, well, I got inspiration. It is so cringe. It's the equivalent of them acting. Dana Brooke and Carmella have zero skill other than the guys that brung them there. Dana Brooke was a lackey for Charlotte. I wish you stayed that way. That means you got jobbed out and you had no talent equivalent to you doing a freaking cartwheel in your entrance. That's the most equivalent to athleticism you can. You can barely sell. It looks like you're always off sync with the person you're even wrestling that I think are basic, like freaking Naomi. You have no basis of how in the hell to convey how a wrestling match goes, and yet they put you in the Money in the Bank ladder match, and you're just the white version of Apollo Crews, except with a nice smile and athleticism. I mean, just with athleticism and a terrible smile and too much Botox. It just, I hate Dana Brooke with a passion because I feel like there's so many people that get overshadowed on NXT or any other show. Like, I swear to God, they would take her over women like Tessa Blanchard. And Tessa Blanchard was in the Mae Young freaking Classic, while Dana Brooke was getting jobbed out by women like the Iconics. Like, come on. And we haven't even seen the Iconics in months. Yet, they lost. Did it convey any conflict? No. Did they have a backstage segment being like, bitch, you cost us the tag team titles? No. So after losing to Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss, nothing happened. It ended up with a botched, they called it inverted 3D, when it was just an elevated DDT. So I guess it was like the Magic Killer, or completely not. I don't know why they called it a 3D, because they called it a creative 3D move because people put him in a flapjack. Nearly any other finisher was put in a flapjack. So I don't know why they did it like that. Nikki Cross was just punching and punching. It was so, the match was so boring. I like Alexa Bliss. I don't mind Nikki Cross except at times whenever she fucking screams. And Carmella is attractive to somebody. I'm not saying to everybody. She's in like a Mandy Rose or like Sonya Deville that, some people might be interested in somebody like her. I don't think I will, but I think certain people will. That's just their preference. Batista DM this chick. Get Don't put cancer into my wrestlers. Never put cancer into my favorite wrestlers. Ever. It ended up in a very little, match, and these bitches been getting so many segments, even trying to persuade Nikki Cross into Alexa Bliss, getting them a title shot. And guess where that ended up? Going nowhere. No conflict. No nothing. And this is the same. And this is one of the same bitches. One ended up being SmackDown Women's Champion, and the other one pinned the SmackDown Women's Champion the previous week to qualify for the Money in the Bank ladder match. Where's the storytelling in all of this? We also had a segment involving Braun Strowman, where they were trying to promo over the night Braun Strowman, and it was like, you were a black sheep of jobbers. You forgot that you consistently lost to people like Jericho, Dean Ambrose, and Roman Reigns for a majority of your run in the Wyatt family, and John Cena, and sometimes the Usos, and Daniel Bryan. There was no part that it felt like the Wyatt family were dominant or had a creative edge to it other than the cryptic, inconsistent promos by Bray Wyatt. And I understand they're trying to make this a close relationship with Braun Strowman, even though he haven't even lasted more of a minute like Harper and Rowan did. So it doesn't convey the same feeling other than, oh, Braun Strowman was part of the Wyatt family. Even though it was just a push to get him there because he's a big dude. Like, how else are you going to introduce somebody like Braun Strowman from back in 2015 when he barely had much going for him? So it doesn't really convey me. It's just a reason to show the Fiend back on pay-per-view because he lost to Goldberg, and that, I guess, people think that the House of Horrors match was pretty good, even though it doesn't convey to real life wrestling. So I'm just a bit confused, folks. I mean, if you guys thought that the Firefly Funhouse match was exciting, creative, go ahead. I thought it was creative as well. I just don't think it was my cup of tea, and I thought it was just a bit too corny for something like this, especially when you try to make this a 2-day event, and especially against your biggest star in company history out of John Cena. It was it was just a dumb way to just hit shots on Cena not getting one guy over, or some certain guy. Oh yeah, I really wanted Justin Gabriel to get over. Yeah, that's awesome. Then we had, of course, the obvious 25th anniversary moment for Triple H on a SmackDown. So it was the equivalent of the uh, SmackDown 1000, but Evolution made an appearance just to push Triple H and Batista for WrestleMania 35. Listen, I I love I love Triple H with a passion. I think he's underrated, one of the Mount Rushmore of wrestlers in the 21st century. And I think he's underappreciated for most of his promos, how he gets to push younger guys to actually be successful, take detrimental losses in the biggest moments of them all just to get guys like Batista, John Cena, Kane, The Undertaker, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels to look like $1 million. Even guys from the mid card like Carlito, Randy Orton, Shelton Benjamin, Jeff Hardy, guys like that to look their best. So if anybody thinks that Triple H is just a barrier that got in and out to the company all because he has the relationships with the McMahons, you're sort of right about that, but that's not completely the case. The guy has a keen eye for the business and he knows what's good and what's bad for for WWE. Just look at his track record, look what he did for NXT, and look what he did for guys that now are your favorite wrestlers. So don't you dare talk about Triple H. But this segment was the most awkward, the most cringe. I understand it was supposed to be a lighthearted moment, and it celebrates longevity of Triple H, but why not do this on Raw, the actual show that you made Impact to? They overshadowed SmackDown. They didn't even have guys that were memorable on SmackDown. I think they had one Funaki segment. They didn't have Edge or Christian. The Batista and Randy Orton, of course, they made their name on SmackDown, but not Triple H. The Rock didn't even make an appearance. I think John Cena came with a Skype call or something on SmackDown 1000. Like, They didn't even bring back the old stage, the cave or the fist stage from back on SmackDown to make it feel like, oh my god, do it like what they did for old school Raw from back in the day. I don't think they do those anymore. They haven't done like where Raw originally was since like the 25th anniversary of Raw. That was the same year of SmackDown 1000. So yeah, it kind of sucks. But that's how I felt. It was awkward, super awkward, I guess, for a legitimate time, and even called him by Paul, like, you remember Katie Vick? Hey, Paul, you remember Katie Vick? remember, remember, you disrespect midgets. Remember, remember, this is your life with Bailey, but it wasn't her fault. Remember when you accused our foundation for saying the N word? Remember when I said the N? It's just it brought up some tough decisions by Vince, and he's just putting it up on Triple H. They even go over his track record at WrestleMania and stuff like that. And I'm shocked they didn't bring up the time when he manipulated a mentally disabled wrestler. But they obviously never want to reference Eugene for obvious reasons. But frequently especially. But that was technically it. Just Triple H and Shawn Michaels were just standing in the ring. They didn't even get into any other conflict other than just bring up their moments, I guess. And Vince just clocked out the lights after saying "I love you," and then that was it. That was SmackDown, folks. I have nothing else to add in on SmackDown. We had no other segment from Elias. Braun Strowman didn't show up to do anything. We still had the same matches involving trying to get Drew Gulak over as a singles competitor. Still having the same squash matches with Sheamus. What happened to Shorty G? The New Day just there. It just felt like a nothing show. There should never be a nothing show every week. But I can understand the circumstances that you are, but at least work with what you got or make the best out of it. They haven't, and they haven't even with a crowd from the month past. So wow, my head hurts. That's practically it for Friday Night SmackDown. Hope you like and comment and subscribe and watch a DST show.